Last class we discussed about like what is environmental variable, how to work with a environmental variable, and then how to work with email automation, right, by using SMTP POP3 SMTP server. Okay, today we will see, so when we will go for credentials. So what is the main intention of credentials here? So when we are using any username and password, if you create it by using environmental variable can be accessed by everyone, right? Any person can able to access. At the same time, in any process you can able to access environmental variable. But here the thing is, any username and password, it has to be restrict to some other specific process, or it has to restrict to some specific person. In that case, we have to go for credentials. Blindly remember, if you have any username and password, go for credentials. That's it. Don't go for environmental variable. Other than any username and password, if you want to distribute it to n number of persons or n number of process, then we can able to go for this environmental variable, but not for username and password. Okay, so when we are working with the credentials, so what we have to do is, in a system manager we have to create credentials. We have to create a credentials here. Before creating a credentials, so I'll tell you one thing. Credential is your internal business object is your credential. Okay, when you are working with a credential, first we need to create credential key. We need to create credential key. Each and every environment, like for example, when you are all together, we are working in one environment, it means one organization. Then for that particular organization in a development environment, we need one credential. Based on this credential, it is going to identify credential activities, credential actions in internal business object. When you are working with a credential, first thing is we need to remember, we need to create a credential key. This key, it will be randomly generated by your BluePrism, and it will be saved in database. Remember this. It will create a credential key, and the key will be randomly generated by your BluePrism, and this key, it will be saved in a database. Whatever the thing we are going to do here, like we are creating a process, when you are creating an object, when you are creating a credential, or when you are creating environmental variable, everything, it will be saved in our databases. So if you remember, when we are installing BluePrism, first we install SQL Server database. On top of SQL Server database, we have installed our BluePrism, right? Everything, whatever we are going to do, it has been saved in our databases. Okay, when you are working with a credential internal business object, what it will do is, it will go and check in a database whether you have permission to access that credential or not, or whether this process is having permissions to access that credential or not. That is the main intention behind creating credential key here. Once you create a credential key, it will be only one key. Once you created a credential key, and one key, you can create n number of credentials. There is no limitation. You can create n number of credentials. For example, so we are going to create credential name CRED main. For example, assume that we created a credential. This is our credential name. For this credential name, what we need to do is, automatically it will ask username and password. Give me username and password for this credential, it will ask you. Once you given the username and password for this credential, then we need to give permissions. permissions or access rights to the credential. Once you give the permission and access rights to this credential, then only we can able to access this credential in a process. If you don't have a permission to access, then you can't able to do that. This permission based on process, based on user, based on server. It will be like that. Based on resources, based on users, based on process, we can able to give the permissions. First, what we need to do is, first we need to create a credential. For this credential key, you can create credential name, and then for that credential name, we are going to give username and password, and then for that, we are using giving permissions. Okay, so when we are giving permissions, it based on process, based on user, and based on resources. We will see that how to create a credential and how to access this credential in a process. So now, in last class we created one process, right? What is the process name? So env underscore variable, right? Okay, this. Now come to this, go to system. Here, if you observe this, under security, we have a option called credential, right? This is the option where we are going to create credential. Now, here observe this, already I created credential key before. So that's why, it is showing here. Okay, it is not enabling. Let me delete this credential. I deleted previous created credential. Okay, now I can able to create new credential. Observe this here, we have an option to create, right? First we need to create credential key. Based on credential key only, you are going to create credential names. Now create. Observe this, it is asking some number credential key. You can give anything, and then generate. See this, it's generated randomly some number, it has been generated. And what it says, save to database. Now it has been saved to your database. Okay, now you can able to create a credentials. Now observe this, we have a new option, right? Click on that new option. Now credential name, for example, may remember this credential name, CRED, may CRED. Okay, let me create in caps, may CRED. This is our credential name. And observe this, what it is giving. By default it is username and password, because for accessing username and password only we are going to use a credentials. Other than that, we are not going to use credential. Now, username, for example, I have given some name here, and then I will give some password. And if you want, you can use expiry date also. So when this username and password has to be expired. And immediately next, if you observe, see this, access rights. We have access rights. This access rights sorry, based on process, based on resource, based on role. Observe this, based on user role, and based on your servers or resources, and based on your process. So here, let me give permission to only specific process, env variable. So we are going to give the permission to specific process, only this for this particular process, and remaining resources you will check everything. Roles also you can check everything here. Okay, now click OK. But we restricted to only specific process, right? If you use this credential in that specific process, then only you can able to access that username and password. Otherwise, It's not possible. Now it's created, credential has been created. Now we will see so how to use that credential in a process. Come to this, in this process, right, env variable we have given the permission. Right click, create a new page. Credential is your internal business object. Now use action, double click, credential, observe this, credentials, right, this is your internal business object. And so what we need to get the credentials. Observe this, what it is asking, credential name. What is the name we have created? Which name? May CRED. This is our credential name. And output. So we need that username and password. Here observe this, you don't know what is the username and password, and but you are going to access that username and password in this process by using credentials. Someone, it means someone else will be created your credentials like admin, but you want to access that in your process, but for that process you need a permission. If you have a permission to access that, you can able to get that username and password. Whatever the username and password, will get it here, those username and password. So you are going to use it to your next process, right? Username and password will come here. Now reset, you will try to run it from here. Set next stage. Now observe this, what is happening. See this, we have a username and we have a password. It means it contacted a database. When you are working with this credential, what it has done is, it's went to database, it access database with that particular credential key which you created. It will check whether the credential is available with this name or not, and then it is going to check in the database whether this process is having a permission or not. If you have a permission, then only we can able to get these details here, otherwise we will not. Now let me show you the same thing for some other process. So for this process we given a permission, this one, so that's why it's, you can able to see that, right? Let me open another process here. For example, go to new page, again use credentials, give link, click, and then use credentials internal business object, credentials. So we need to get the credentials, and then credential name will be may_CRED. And what we need from this, I need username and we need a password, right? Now if you try to run this, click set next stage and run this. Observe this, what happened. So what was the error it is giving here? It says that, observe this, do not have permissions to access credentials. Do not have permissions to access credentials, because we did not given permissions to access, right, for this process, right? So we have given for every role, and then we have given the permission to resources also, but we did not given a permission to access for this particular process, right? That's why we can't able to use. Remember, always credentials we will use for username and password. Okay, so now we will come to our session variable concept. What is session variable? So how to work with this? The purpose of session variable is just to check what is the value what is the value it's assigning to variable during runtime. During the runtime, what is the value it is assigning to the variable, that is your session variable. During the runtime we need to see, so what is the values it is so processing. Okay, so here if you observe, so let me open this one. Okay, if you observe, so we have some value here, environmental variable value. The same value we are giving it to your local variable, right? This is our local variable, and when you are running this process, we have to see what is the value it is assigning to the local variable during the runtime. That's the concept of session variable. And remember, when you want to use this session variable, must and should, so data item, in a data item we have to use, we have a exposure option, right? Exposure to session, exposure to session must and should we have to use. If you want to use environmental variable, exposure the data item to your environment, then you can able to access your environmental variable value. But if you want to use that in a session variable, must and should the data item should be exposed to your session, then only you can able to use that. And one more thing, remember, sometimes in interviews they will ask, can I able to use same data item as a session variable as a environmental variable? It's not possible, because the same data item, if you want to use it as a session variable at the same time it's a environmental variable, it is not possible. Any data item we will use only individually, only we can able to use. It can be a session variable or it can be an environmental variable, but not the both, but not for both the things. Okay, so because, so if you observe here, I'll show you. See this, double click on this exposure, observe this session. If you select session, so it's not possible to select environment. If you select environment, it's not possible to select session. So any one thing only you can able to perform. It can be exposed to, see this, session. Exposure to session means, so it will expose the data item to the control room. The meaning of this is, it will, you can able to see the value for this particular session in your control room. Now click OK. So we are implementing this. Click OK and then save this one. We selected this option to the session, right? We selected this option to session. Now this what? Process already it has been published. Observe the check mark. Check mark means it has been published. Now we will run this in control room and we will see the result. Come to control room. This one, right? Before that, if you want to refresh control room, see this option, the right side, the refresh option. Just click on that and select that environmental, drag and drop to the desktop. So this was server. Now it came. Now if you want to see the session variable, here observe this, during the runtime, if you click on this show session variable option, then you can able to see the value here. You can able to see that value here. Now just run this and then let's check whether it is displaying the value for that or not. Pending, terminated. Just a minute. Check the log. Let's do calculation result. this process local, save this one, and we are assigning this environmental variable value to this local variable. I will run this. If you want to check that, run up to here. It's running. Okay. Now save it. Same thing. So we need to run. Come to the control room. Refresh it. Again, move it. Again it came here. Now right click and then start. Now it has been completed. Can you able to see the value here, session, for that session? What is the value it is assigning? No, right? So here if you observe, so we finished it. So but even, so this one, it is not showing the value in a session. We have given the exposure data item to the control room, but it is not displaying here. The reason is, before giving the calculation, before after, so giving the calculation result to this local variable, so once it is done, when it is giving the instructions to this, like display this value in a session, before that your process is finishing. It means your process is very fast. It's very fast. So how to do this? We are going to use wait option, right? Do you have a wait here? This is, we are working with a process studio now, right? Do you have a wait option in process studio? No, we have a wait option only in in object studio. We don't have that in process studio. How to do that then? You can create only wait in a object. You can create a object. For that object you can create a action. In a action you can use start, and you can use wait, and you can use terminate, and then you can give some wait option, and then you can use end. We can do this like this, right? And then we can use this action in your process. This is the one way how we can able to implement. Another way we have, in a process studio we have a option called sleep. We have a option called sleep option. We can go for this, but the difference between, so wait and sleep is, we don't have dynamic option in a sleep. It should be only static. Always it will be static. This sleep, it will be available in utility general. Utility general, this is your VBO, visual business object. In utility general visual business object, you can able to see the sleep option. The difference between the sleep and wait will be, sleep you can give only static, you can't able to give dynamic, right? So now we will see that how to implement that. Now use action, double click, sleep, sorry, utility general, and then see this sleep, and then, so how much time? For example, 5 seconds. Click OK. That's it. Now run this. Give this. After that, what it will do, when it is giving the calculation result to this variable, so after that it will wait for 5 seconds. Within the, during these 5 seconds, it will give the instructions to the control room. We have to display the value here. Now we will see that. Set. save this one. Come to this, Control 2, refresh it. This one, just use this. Now observe this. So what is the purpose of session variable? Only during the runtime it will display the value here. After completion of that, so no need, it will not display. Observe this. Start. It's running. Observe the value. See this? You can able to see the status is running. Once it is completed, what happened? It's gone. Because only during the runtime only it will show you the values. What is the values it is assigning during the runtime? That's the main intention of the session variable. But this is only for the to understand the concept. And so most of the interviews they will ask, but in real time, so most of the time we will not. So prefer, so we will not use this at all. Okay. So generally, so when it is running the runtime, so after the completion of the process, also you can able to see the value. See this view log. You can able to see, right, what is the value it is assigning, and then what will be the parameters we have given. Everything we can able to see in a log file. Then what's the point here? So when it is during the runtime, if anyone want to see what is the values assigning, then we can able to see that. That's it. That's the only thing. We can't able to do anything here during the runtime, right? Okay. So this is the concept of session variable. Okay, remember, credential is for username and password. Any generic thing, if you want to share it in a multiple process, then we can go for environmental variable. And session variable is nothing but, so you can able to see the session variable value during the runtime. And one more thing, data item can be used for any one thing, like it can be used for environmental variable, or it can be used for any, so this one session variable, or but not for both. Remember this one. So most of the interviews, so they will ask this. This is the concept of credentials, environmental variable, and then session variable. So now we will discuss about global send keys option. What it means by that? Okay, we will discuss. Okay, we'll discuss database later, so it will take some time. So now we will discuss about global send keys option. Global send keys. For example, if you want to use any of your keypad activities, then we have to go for global send keys option. It means if you want to use enter button in your keypad, if you want to use functions rf1 to f10, rf1 to f11, or numpad 0 to 9, or escape, or tab, or caps, or down arrows, up arrow, anything, any of your keypad activities, we have to go for global send keys option. Okay, for example, assume that, so when you automated Notepad, what we have done, so we clicked on this and then we entered some value, right? We spied this one and we entered some value. After that, our requirement is we need to enter it in a second line. Then how it will do, right? If you use enter where your cursor is available, there again it will give some value. Again, if you want to enter something, again where the cursor is available, there it will type. But our requirement is you need to write it in a second line, or so 2 lines later. Now I need to write it here something like this. Then must and should we have to use a enter here. We have to use enter. So otherwise it's not possible, right? The same way, if you want to use any shortcuts, here what we have done previously, we spied on file and then we spied on save. After that we spied on this one, we created an element and we used the action called write to write the thing, right? each and everything we created a element, so we spied it by creating element, and then so we have used as a action. Instead of that, we can use Control S. See this? I clicked on Control S. When I clicked on Control S, it is going to open your path, right? Instead of doing all these things, I can use a shortcut, right? You can use a shortcut, right? The same thing. So if you have any options, so like this, then we can go for globals and keys. If you want to anywhere, if you want to use your keypad activities, so then we have to go for globals and keys option. Here we need to remember one thing, globals and keys option, so always it will work where your application is highlighted. It means, so now where your application is highlighted now in this notepad, see this arrow, so where is your cursor is available here. If you do something, some action, then it will perform here. Now Control S, where it's highlighted now on the path, right? This one. If I type something, now where it's highlighted on save, right? See this, save is highlighting, right? So like this, where your application is highlighted, there your globals and keys option is going to work. Sometimes if you observe, when you are entering your credit card details anywhere for billing details or whatever it may be, first if you enter 4 digits, automatically it will be, so go to the next field, next 4 digits. After entering the 4 digits, automatically will go to the next field. It means that application was highlighting there, right? So it should be like that. So when you are working with a globals and keys, we need to cross check whether the application can, so can we able to use the globals and keys option or not. So if it is allowing, then we can able to so use that. So now here, when you are working with the globals and keys, we have two options. One is global send keys, another one is global send key events. Remember this. So most of the interviews they will ask when you are going to use global send keys or when you are going to use global send key events. Always remember, global send keys we are going to use it for thick client application. This is for thin client application. We will discuss what it means by that. Thin client applications, global send key events we have to use for thin client application. So we have to use it for thick client application. For example, if everything we are doing within our system, then we will call it as a thick client applications. So so suppose if you are automating something, so that software is installed in your system, then so you are working with your system, so then we will call it as a thick client application. And coming to thin client application, when you are connecting to the remote access, when you are connecting to Citrix access or VPN, so we are accessing some other application by using this VPN or Citrix or remote access, then we will call it as a thin client application. Access is very limited, right? Here, so within your system access, you will have a good access, right? So no, you don't have any limitation for access within your system. So here, so your thin client applications, you are going to use global send key events. Thick client applications, you are going to use global send keys option. So the working style will be both are same, but when you are connecting to the remote, remember that you have to use global send key events for your keypad activities. Okay, and the BluePrism has released some document for global send key shortcuts. Any combination, remember, any combination of the keys, so you have to give in double quotes. For example, control, control, yes, we have a symbol for control. I will show you. It will be like this: control, yes, control plus yes. Okay, we have to use this. And any single key we have to use double quotes, flower base, and it should be in caps. Remember this. You have to use like this. When you are using globals and keys, if any single key, enter or tab or escape, whatever it may be, you have to use in this format in double quotes, and it should be within flower bases. But any combination of keys, for example alt F4, alt plus F4, or control S, or so control shift delete, whatever it may be, then we have to no need to use this flower base, so you can use the double quotes and then combination. Okay, so let me show you the document. We will send this document to you today. Observe this. These are the shortcut keys from the BluePrism. See this. If you want to use alt, we have to use @ symbol. If you want to use control, we have to use cap symbol. If you want to use shift, you have to use plus symbol, right? So here, so if you observe the same thing, see this, caps lock like this, break it like this, within the flower beds, end, enter, escape, help, whatever it may be. Same way, if you observe function keys, see this, F1, F2, F3, and then so if you want to use any symbols like plus, so multiply, so like this, and observe this, numpad 0, numpad 1, numpad 2, numpad 9 number pads. And then if you observe the combination here, we'll show you the combination. See this, control yes, alt s, right? So it will be like this, control alt yes. So any combination, no need of flower base. Okay, so now we'll see so how to work with a global send keys option by using this, the same over so Notepad application. And some applications somewhere so it will not support, then we can't able to use this global send keys option. Okay, so let me create a object here. So we want to work with Notepad now, so we'll create object, sorry, go to create a object, global send keys. Next, double click on this. Now what we need to do, we need to create application and Windows application. It should be from executable file, browse, and then it will be in Windows, Notepad. Next, and remaining everything will be next. Now always remember one more thing, I forgot to tell you. When you are working with global send keys, always you have to use navigate option. Always you have to use navigate option, and always you have to use main element. No need to spy. That's the advantage of this. When your application is supporting global send keys, no need to spy. Directly we can use. Always we will use navigate. Always we are going to use main element. Now we created an application. It's created main element, right? Okay. Now click launch first. Yes, it's launching. Okay, so let me close this. Now click OK. Now we created a main element. We are going to use that main element. So here action first will be launch. We need to launch. Use this. Double click. See this main element. We are going to use launch. After the launch, what we need to do? We need to write it in a first line. So no need to spy. No need to spy that particular object. Directly you can use navigate. Double click. Always we are using main element, and then here observe this global send keys. Global send keys. When you are working with remote access, so some other system, so you are working in some other remote access, you are using this Notepad. So then we have to go for global send key events. That's the only one change. Now, so text, what you need to type. This is from global send key options. I have given some information. Click OK. Now if you run this, just observe this. It's open. See this? We didn't spide it, right? It has given. So next we need to enter. It has to enter, and then in the next line we have to write it. Then what we have to do again? Let me close this. Again use navigate. Again navigate shape. Double click. Again use main element, and then global send keys. What you need to perform here? Enter, right? We need to enter. Observe this, like this, double quotes, and then it should be in a flower base. When you run this, it will enter. After the enter, what we need to do? We need to write it in a second line. Sorry, always we have to use navigate. Again navigate. We have to write again in a second line after the enter. So now again global send keys. Again I need to write second line information. Second line information, like this. Now if you run this, then it will run up to that. Now observe this. It will enter after the first line. See this? It's entered. It's written in a second line. After that, so we have to use save path, Control S. Previously what we have done, we spied the file, and then again we spied save, again we spied this thing path. After that we have used as a action to enter, right? Instead of doing all these things, so just we can use Control S, and then after that we can use write, right? Same thing, use navigate, double click. So we need to use Control S. So always we have to use main element, global send keys, Control. Yes, Control will be so combination, right? Control S. So Control will be cap symbol. Cap. See this Control is cap here, cap symbol. So we will use the same thing here. Control. Yes. That's it. Now after the Control S, it will give open the path. There you need to give the path. Again use navigate, double click. Again use global send keys. Again use global send keys option. Here we need to give the path where the file has to save. Let me take any path, copy as a path, come here and give that path, and then change this name to gsk.txt. global send keys.txt have given. Then what it will do? It is going to save that, right? After that, so we need to terminate that application. We launch that application, we will going to terminate your application. Click global send keys, and then global send keys, sorry, terminate, right? Terminate. Click OK, and then after that end. So enter. Okay, so now let me run this. Now observe this. See this, right? It has been saved and it's implemented very easily. So instead of spying everything, right? So now the same way, so what we will do is, so I will give one assignment to you. So try to implement it. What you have to do is go to your Facebook account, facebook.com. If you go to the facebook.com, here observe this, you have this option, right? You need to spy this normally. What you have to do is where it is highlighting directly in the first name. Observe this. When I click on this, automatically where it is highlighting in the first name. After that, use a tab. Use tab symbol. tab, caps and double quotes within the flower base. It will come here. Again use a tab, it will come here. Again use a tab, it will come here, right? So try to use this one. Okay, try to implement. And here, so if you observe, so it will, so highlighting here, so 29 here we are going to use drop down list. Instead of that, you can so spy this, you can select so any specific number like right option. Okay, so later, so we'll see so how to work with a drop down list. I will show you so how to later in the next class we will see. So if anywhere, if you have a drop down list, how to use this drop down list, we'll see that. So observe this here. Next again I am tab, see this, it came here. Again when I am using tab, it came here. So it means your global send keys option is not going to work for these things. Again we need to spy this and then we need to click on a sign up button, right? It will be like that. Okay, so here up to these fields, so you can use directly global send keys option for the tabs, no need to spy. But here when it is coming to here, so you need to spy this, right? So try to implement the, so both the options, global send keys as well as spy options to automate. So when you automate that, automatically it has to create a so Facebook account for you here. So when you click on a sign up, when you are giving a number, you will get a text message, right? There you have to enter manually. There use a wait option, use wait option for 5 seconds. Within the 5 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds, you will get a message. That message you have to tap manually. After that, continue the process. Okay, so try to implement this. So any questions in this one, in this specific things? So that's why, so before going to any application, we have to cross check so how the application is behaving. So based on that, we can decide so whether so we need to spy or whether we can use a global send keys option. So what all the options we have to use in a different implementations. Okay. Everyone, is it clear? Try to implement this Facebook automation. After that, I will give you some other application for you as an assignment. You will see that.